Joining me now to discuss is private wealth management expert and managing partner of Chapwood Investments, Ed Butowsky. Ed, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Stacy. I appreciate it.
I'm glad you're here because let's talk about the EU deal, the EU trade deal. It's really consequential. Other countries are sitting up and taking notice of what the Europeans decided to give to President Trump and receive from the United States in this deal.
Yeah, I mean, the European Union is a huge trading partner for the United States, but you also have to remember that only 13% of our GDP are imports. So when you start looking at tariffs, you have to look at the idea that the tariffs really don't represent a huge portion of our GDP, and that's why we're not seeing inflationary pressures. So, even though these are making a lot of headlines, it's not really that financially influenced. So I think it's important that people know that the EU, being a huge trading partner for the United States, really doesn't make a macro difference to the United States.
But we do to them, because one of the big parts of the deal was the liquefied natural gas that we'll be selling to them, and they'll be getting it from us instead of Russia, which means they don't have to worry about us cutting it off if there's a disagreement between our countries or throttling it back or otherwise trying to harm their citizens. It's just friendly trade between two co-equal nations, as opposed to the despotism they saw from the Russians when they were buying from them.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And I was surprised that the EU was still doing business with Russia for as long as it has during the Ukraine war. That was really shocking to me. And there's a lot of things that shock me these days, but that's something that really, really stood out to me. And also the additional purchases from the United States and the influx of money from the EU to the United States is also a big number that Trump has been out there, promoting and talking about. So I think he's done an excellent job with the EU. A lot of people think that the head of the EU is a very weak person, that she didn't really get the biggest bang for her buck. But I'll tell you, Trump has done a great job of using the trade or the economic engine of the United States, which no president has ever done before. I believe he deserves a lot of accolades for that.
I agree with you, Ed. And I also want to say, I'm not giving a kind of a negative slant to her ability to negotiate. She went up against one of the strongest negotiators in the country. One of the moves that he recently made that I want people to think about when you're comparing her negotiating prowess with his is that he owns something called Turnberry in Scotland. So when he met with Keir Starmer, who's the Prime Minister of Great Britain, instead of meeting in Great Britain at one of their palaces, because they normally take state meetings there, and President Trump's actually met with the Queen at one of, I think it was Buckingham Palace, he invited Keir Starmer and his wife to Scotland. So on a state visit in their own, basically their nation, they were received by our president on his own property, where the Bruce Robert actually owned that property originally back in the 1400s. So we're talking about the ultimate move. He received them in their own country at his property, and a state. It's not just a golf course; it's a historic building and a castle and all that. So I'm not taking anything away from this woman. I don't think she could have been prepared to negotiate with a man who pulls moves like that on other world leaders and has properties all over the world, including in Russia, with properties with his name on it. It's really It's stunning, and I don't know why anybody would think she could stand up to him and do well.
Especially not just the optics of it, but the actual result of the balance sheet is something that's huge. I mean, you're up against the United States, which is just a huge economic engine, the biggest in the world. It's very, very difficult to negotiate against that. So everyone took punches at her. But I don't believe that they were deserved, as you pointed out. I believe that she went up against a juggernaut and, got what she got. And people should be happy that she walked away with what she walked away with.
Ed, I was thinking she should be glad that President Trump isn't the Hitler they keep saying he is, because he could have given her a much worse deal that she would have had to take. The other part that's interesting when you talk about our nations and, kind of being equal, but not really, because the United States GDP is so much larger than Europe. They have 500 million people. We have over 300 million. They have I think it's 50 some odd states in theirs. We have one country. It's a weird thing to see people both revile President Trump, but then they have to, at the end of the day, when it's negotiation time, when it's the money on the table, the trillions of dollars of trade, they have to bend the knee because he really is a great negotiator, a fantastic businessman, and he's coming from the economic power. It's not to be dismissed. I really think it's important that people understand the dynamic that was there, that she really didn't have any cards to play, to use President Trump's term.
Yeah, there's no question about it. And, I'm sure President Trump was very gracious with her and didn't bully her, but just laid out the facts and just left them as they were. And she didn't really have anywhere to go with it.
Yeah, but they got a good deal. So that's the other part. He did give them a good trade deal. The imbalance is now on their end, where the imbalance was on the United States end before, and that was unfair. For it to be on their end for a while balances things out, because historically we've been transferring our wealth to them for basically nothing in return. I noticed they've changed their visa scheme too. I grew up in Germany, so I never had to worry about visas, but I've been back to Europe since then twice. And both times I had power with an American passport not to need an additional visa to go to Switzerland or Germany or England. Now I have to have another visa, and they've tripled the cost of that visa. It's $21. It won't kill you, but it's still the idea that we need visas to go to Europe where we didn't before as American citizens. So they're trying to push back a little bit at.
Yeah, well, every dollar matters, and $21 when you multiply that towards 500,000 travelers a summer, it does add up. But it's more of it's more of an optic thing than an actual results financially for them.
Yeah, it's I feel like it's the inconvenience of it for Americans, and they want to make that point to us. But we'll still come visit their countries. Their countries are like huge museums, and if they can keep the invasion that they have underway right now at bay, they'll remain a great place to visit. And I grew up there. I love Europe, but they need work. Ed Butowsky, so good to have you back here, and thank you for your time.
Absolutely, thank you.